Good afternoon, Geometry. Today we're going to be looking at unit conversions, which is a topic that is going to really help you out as you get farther in your science career, looking at chemistry and physics specifically, as well as in daily life. Unit conversions are everywhere, where you're converting in time between minutes and seconds into hours, days, years. You might be converting distances between miles, feet, yards, kilometers, etc. You might be converting volumes between gallons to cubic feet to liters to milliliters to cubic centimeters, etc. If you're purchasing land, you might need to convert an acre into multiple square feet worth of area. So you see it pretty well everywhere in daily life. Looking at the two examples that we have for today, I chose the first one where we are eliminating variables because it relates to unit conversions so well. And we'll get into that in just a moment here. And then the second one I chose because it's always good to review volume. So looking at this first one, we have 2x to the third times y to the fourth over 8x squared y squared, and then we've got another expression on the other side that we're multiplying by 5x y squared over x cubed y. If we were to write this all out, we could write this out longhand if we so desire. On the very top we could write 2 multiplied by x to the third. We could write that as x times x times x, and then y to the fourth we could write that as y times y times y times y. And then on the other side, if we're multiplying two fractions, remember we multiply straight across the numerators and straight across the denominators. That would be multiplied by 5 times x times a couple of y's. That's what we'd have on the very top of our fraction if we were to write this out longhand. Writing out the bottom, we could write out the bottom longhand as well with 8, a couple x's, a couple y's, and that's being multiplied by 3 x's and a y. Now what can we do with all these variables? Remember, if you have something on the top of the numerator of a fraction and the bottom of on the denominator of a fraction, those two things can cancel each other out. Looking at my 2 and my 8, for example, I know 2 and 8 is divisible by 2 and turns into a 4. So we could simply turn that 8 into a 4 and cancel out the 2 completely. I see several x's. I'm going to go ahead and cancel some x's. 1, 2, 3 x's with 1, 2, 3 x's. We have another x up top that can cancel out and leave us with just a single x on the bottom. So as far as number-wise, we're left with a 5 on top, we're left with a 4 on the bottom, and we're left with an x on the bottom. We can cancel out some y's here as well. I'll cancel out 3 y's on top, 3 y's on the bottom, and that's going to leave us with 1, 2, 3 y's remaining up top. To write this out more simply, I'm going to write out that I have 5 y to the third power up top because I have a total of 1, 2, and 3 y's. And then on the bottom I have 4 and a single x. 4 and a single x are all that are remaining on the denominator of my fraction. Now that is the long way to do it. If you want to write it out all longhand, you're very welcome to. A shorthand way would be to add up the exponents up top. I see that my x's, I have 3 plus there's an imaginary 1 up on this x, 4 x's. This is really x to the fourth on top. And then we have, how many? 5 x's, x to the fifth on the bottom as far as x's are concerned. 4 of these x's are going to cancel out with 4 of these x's, leaving us with just a single x on the bottom, just like we have here. And then as far as the y's go, I'll switch that over to orange, let's say. We have 4, 5, 6 y's on the top. We have 3 total. Remember, there's an imaginary 1 up here. We have 3 total y's on the bottom. 3 y's will cancel out with 3 y's. So we have 3 y's remaining up top. I could say that's y to the third, just like we have down here when we wrote it out all longhand. Now what does this have to do with units? Units are going to cancel out just like this. If we have, let's say, inches or centimeters up top and some inches or centimeters on the bottom, those things will cancel out just like x's and y's do in the equation. So far as the volume problem, keep in mind we had that one day where we were pouring pyramids into prisms, and we found out that 3 pyramids end up making a single prism. For this problem, we can go ahead and say that 1/3 multiplied by the base area of 39 times 15, multiply that by the height. You're going to end up getting a volume of, I believe if you multiply that out, 3,120 meters cubed. Remember, we have cubic meters because we're dealing with 3 dimensions. It's meters by meters by meters, meaning we have cubic meters. Let's talk about a few conversions. There are a few of these conversions here that you might know off the top of your head, and others that you might not be too familiar with. For example, I'm sure you heard in middle school at some point in time that there are exactly 5,280 feet within a mile. Some lesser known ones, you may or may not know that there are approximately 2.54 centimeters in an inch. 1 inch is approximately 2.54 centimeters. If you look at that protractor or that ruler, you notice that a centimeter is shorter than an inch. In fact, there's about 2.5 centimeters that make up a single inch. This next one you should definitely know. If you look at a yardstick is always 3 feet in length. In 3 feet, well, you know 12 inches makes a foot, so we multiply 3 by 12. That is 36 inches that end up making a single yard. 36 inches make 3 feet, which makes a yard. Now that's the imperial system. It's this kind of ridiculous system that we in America use because we're stubborn about things. If you're going to be using the metric system, on the other hand, conversions are much simpler. For example, 1 meter is equal to exactly 100 centimeters. The way I remember that, how many cents are in a dollar? 100. How many years are in a century? 100 as well. How many centimeters are in a meter? 100 of them. How many years are in a millennium? 1,000 years are in a millennium. Similarly, 1,000 millimeters are in a single meter. Kilometers work the exact same way. They're exactly 1,000 meters. So if you think about a meter stick, lay 1,000 of them across, you're going to get a single kilometer. This next one, I want you to take a random guess. 4,000 or 43,560 square feet. I want you to imagine that for a moment. 1 square foot is a single foot by a single foot square. If you have 43,560 of these, you have what your grandparents or maybe great-grandparents probably referred to back in the day as an acre. An acre is pretty frequently used in farming to buy and sell amounts of land, but it's not too frequently used, to be totally honest, not too frequently used nowadays. You're more going to see land purchased in square miles, if anything, unless you desire to purchase a farm. The next one you should know pretty well, how many minutes are in an hour. 60, of course, because of some arbitrary person way back a millennia ago. Similarly, there are 60 seconds in a minute, so we're going to do 60 times 60, which is 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. Going back to the metric system, 1 liter is comprised of, if you remember the root word milli. What does milli mean again? Milli means 1,000. There are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. Another word for milliliter is cubic centimeter. There are exactly 1,000 cubic centimeters in a liter as well. That does mean that a milliliter is a cubic centimeter. Alright, so if you hold up with your hands, imagine 1 single centimeter in distance and make a cube out of that. So a cubic centimeter would look a little something like this. I'm going to go ahead and draw a little perspective drawing. Oh dear. That's artwork right there. Beautiful. If you have a cubic centimeter, that's 1 milliliter, and then get 1,000 of those, and that'll fill up your liter bottle of whatever cola you drink. Next up, we have, going back to our imperial system, the gallon. A gallon, just like any other imperial measurement, does not make any sense at all when you convert it. A gallon is equal to approximately 0.1337 cubic feet. 1337 is a pretty popular number amongst the computer community. 1337, going on a little tangent here, is a popular port number that a bunch of hackers used back in the 90s to take over a bunch of banks. Anyways, 1337 was chosen because it forms the word leet, L-E-E-T, or 1337. It kind of spells 1337, and a bunch of hackers figured they were elite, or 31337, they were elite. But I'm going off on a tangent here. Let's get back to other units. A kilogram versus a pound. If you're going to weigh yourself, you'll be more flattered when you find out how many kilograms you weigh, because every 2.2 pounds roughly that you weigh 1 kilogram. So you can take your number of pounds that you weigh, divide it by 2.2, and you'll get a rough idea of how many kilograms you end up weighing. We're going to come back to these unit measurements pretty frequently as we're converting several things. So, first problem up. Mr. Reese is 6'2". How tall is he in centimeters? Great question. Well, let's start by converting this into inches. I know 6 feet. If we convert 6 feet into inches, 6 times 5 I know is a 72 inches. So I know that's 72 inches plus another 2 inches. Mr. Reese is 74 inches tall. Alright? Now I want to convert inches into centimeters. The obvious question to ask yourself is, well, do I need to multiply or divide that 2.54? I know there are 2.54 centimeters in an inch. Do I need to multiply or divide? Here's an easy way to tell. Make a fraction. Whatever you have on top right now, we've got an invisible 1 going on underneath our inches. Whatever we have on top of our fraction, we need to cancel that out, just like we did with our exponents earlier, by putting inches on the bottom. And then whatever units we want, we're going to go ahead and put those units on top. I'm going to go ahead and write out, well, there's 2.54 centimeters in an inch, so I'm going to type that out, 2.54 centimeters, fit in a single inch. Using blue here, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out my inches. Inches cancel out. Now, I can do this because 2.54 centimeters is the same thing as 1 inch. If you take the same thing divided by itself, essentially, you get 1, and we can multiply any number like 74 by what is equivalent to 1. So we are allowed to multiply this by 2.54 centimeters per inch because we're just essentially multiplying by 1. If we multiply this all out, we're going to get 74 multiplied by 2.54, which gives us approximately 187.96. What units do we have left? Well, our inches canceled out. We just have centimeters left. Mr. Reese is approximately 187.96 centimeters tall. You'd use that if you go outside of the US and someone asks you how tall you are. In German, Mr. Reese might say, Ich bin 1,87 Meter, meaning I am 1 meter and 87 centimeters, or 187 centimeters tall. Suppose Mr. Reese's German cousin, on the other hand, reports that he's 1.72 meters tall, slightly shorter than Mr. Reese. How tall is this German cousin in feet and inches? Well, we can go ahead and find that out by converting a few things. First off, let's convert into centimeters. 1.72 meters. I know that there are 100 centimeters in a meter, so if we multiply that by 100, we know that this German cousin is 172 centimeters tall. Alright, 172 centimeters. I'd like to convert that to inches. And just like last time, I have centimeters on top. I'm going to need to switch it around so centimeters are on bottom this time. Inches are on top. And in this case, we'd be doing a division problem. We have the 2.54 on the bottom this time. So if we want to type something into our calculators, we're going to end up typing 172 over 2.54. And we'll get that this German cousin is approximately 67.72 inches tall. We know that it's inches because we had centimeters on top, centimeters on bottom. Those canceled out and we're left with simply inches. In order to convert that into feet, let's think about popular feet amounts. I know that 4 feet is 4 times 12. 4 feet is equal to just 48 inches. I know that 5 feet or 5 times 12 is 60 inches. I know that 6 feet or 6 times 12 is 72 inches. This Mr. Reese's German cousin is going to fit somewhere 5 feet and some odd inches. Well, 60 inches is 5 feet, so Mr. Reese's German cousin's going to end up being 5 feet and 7.72 inches tall. Overall, 5 feet and a little over 7, almost 8 inches tall. Let's go and flip on over to the next page in our notes. Those first couple of problems, we were just converting a single unit to another single unit. What happens if we have something different, like a miles per hour? You're driving 60 miles per hour, and you're looking outside the window, and you wonder to yourself, how many feet are you traveling in any given second? Well, you can count off, and you can count 1,000 as you're driving in your car. Hopefully you're the passenger and not the driver trying to look out the window at the ground. But assuming you're the passenger, you wonder how many feet just went by in that one single second. What we're going to need to do here is convert both units. I'm going to write this 60 feet, or 60 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, 60 miles for every 1 hour. That word per is going to reference division. The word per always references division, so 60 miles divided by 1 single hour. In other words, in 1 hour you're going to go 60 miles. In the end here, in the very end of our equation, I want some number of feet per second. Alright? So somehow I need to convert miles per hour into feet per second. It doesn't matter which you convert first, but you're going to need to convert miles into seconds. Or excuse me, miles into feet somehow. And you're going to need to convert hours into seconds. Alright? So, let's do it. I notice that miles is on top. So I'm going to need to put miles, which we abbreviate MI. I'm going to put miles on the bottom. I'm going to convert miles into feet overall, so I'm going to go ahead and put feet on top. Similarly here, I see we have hours on the bottom. We can convert hours by putting that on top. I can abbreviate hours just with HR. And then I want to convert that into seconds. In the end, I want seconds on the bottom. So I'm going to put SEC for seconds. I'm going to go and put that on the bottom. I need to tack on my conversion factors. So if you flip on over to the front page, go ahead and look at your notes that you've already taken as far as some conversion factors go. Remember that there's 5,280 feet for every 1 mile. And then as far as hours go, for every 1 hour, there's 3,600 seconds. I'm going to go and do some canceling, just like remember when we were canceling out our X's and Y's from our warm-up. I'm going to cancel miles on top, miles on the bottom. I'm going to cancel hours on bottom, hours on top. Notice what we have left. We've magically canceled everything but feet and seconds, which is exactly what we want in the end. Feet and seconds. Tossing that into your calculator, we're going to multiply straight across on our numerators. So we have 60 on top, and a 5,280 on top, and a 1. If you want to multiply the 1, you go for it, but anything times 1 is itself. And on the bottom we have 1 times 1. I'm not going to write that out, but we have a 3,600 on the bottom. If we multiply all that out, 60 times 5,280 times 1 over 3,600. Go ahead and multiply that all out on your calculator. You're going to wind up with a grand total of about 88 feet per second. Next time you're traveling down the highway, going approximately the speed limit of 60 miles per hour, remind yourself that you are in fact traveling approximately 88 feet per second. So we went ahead and converted units. We went ahead and converted 2 units at a time. Go ahead and take a moment to pause the video if you need to review anything. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and continue on. Alright, up next, we sometimes need to convert more than 1 unit at a time, but it almost looks like it's the same unit, and this is probably what students get confused on the most when you first see unit conversions. So I'm going to try to lay this out and make it as simple as possible. You're looking for a square property that's 30 yards by 30 yards. You want to find the area of the property in square feet, square miles, and in acres. So here's what we're going to do. Right away, it's a square, it's 30 by 30, so I'm going to say that's 30 times 30, which is equals 900 yards squared. Alright, 900 yards squared is the amount of property that you're wanting to buy. Here's the mistake I see a lot of people do. Please don't write this next bit down. The mistake I see a lot of people do is write 900 yards squared, and then they go in and say, well, there's 3 feet in a yard, let's go ahead and multiply this number by 3, and you're going to get 2,700 feet squared. Yes, you've just converted yards to feet, but you did not convert yards squared to feet squared. This is where that warm-up comes in handy. 900 yards squared, I'm going to write that out longhand. I'm going to write this out as 900 yards. That sounds a little funny, but we're going to go for it. You have 900 yards. You want to convert yards into square feet. In other words, you want to convert that into feet. Here's what I'm going to do. 900 yards. I need to convert a yard. So I'm going to convert 1 yard at a time. 1 yard into feet. I know that there are 3 feet in a single yard. That's going to get rid of one of my sets of yards. But if we did this multiplication right now, 900 times 3, which is 2,700, you don't have feet squared. Instead, you have 2,700 yard feet, which is not an important set of units to have. I want, instead of yard feet, I want feet, or feet squared. So I need to multiply that once more. I need to multiply that 3 feet for every single yard. That's going to cancel my yards as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and get, well, what do I have left? I have feet. I have feet, which is square feet, feet squared, or feet times feet, feet squared. I can go and multiply that. 900 times 3 times 3. Feet. In other words, I have 8,100 feet squared worth of space. 8,100 feet squared worth of space. The same type of thing goes for miles. We're going to get an incredibly small number here. We're going to get a really small number. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to, orange. Why not pink? Let's go for some pink. I'm going to start out with my 8,100 feet. And I want to convert feet now into square miles or miles. I think I stuttered a little bit. Just 2 miles. Square miles, miles. 8,100 feet. I'm going to go ahead and convert into miles. By once again saying, well, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. That's going to get rid of 1 set of feet. I'm going to need to convert that twice, though. 1 mile for every 5,280 80 feet. Cancel feet, cancel feet. And what we're going to be left with here is 8,100 divided by 5,280 times 5,280, or 5,280 squared if you'd like to write on your calculator. Miles, because that we have only miles as units, only miles left. If we divide that out, 5,285 times 5,280 is going to be an incredibly large number. 8,100 divided by that large number, it's going to get us something really small. It's going to end up being 0.123029 miles squared. That doesn't seem like a lot at first, but I want you to think about 30 yards. That's roughly the distance between Mr. Reese's front door to the front door of SVCPA is about 30 yards. Think of a square that's 30 yards by 30 yards, and then think of another square that's a full mile by a full mile. This is what, a 10,000th, about 29 10,000ths, or about roughly 3,000 of those square yards would end up fitting inside of a square mile. It seems reasonable that 3,000 of those squares made up of Mr. Reese's classroom to the front door, a square of that would fit in about a mile by mile square. Last but not least, suppose you want to purchase by acre. What's really cool about acres is the conversion factor for acres is already in square feet. Look back at your conversions, notice that one single acre is equal to 43,560 square feet. So for this problem, we can go ahead and just say square feet, 8,100 square feet. I have square feet on top, so I want square feet on the bottom. This can be different than the previous ones. We don't need to say feet because the acre equation already has square feet in it. One single acre is equal to, what do we say, 43,000, looking at my notes, 43,560 square feet. Go ahead and divide that out. You're going to get approximately 0.186 acres. 0.186 acres worth of land. Finally, last but not least, one of my favorite problems in the world because it represents the craziness of converting between imperial and metric. Suppose you have 2,000 liters worth of a liquid. There's a 2 liters worth of liquid. You have a 2-liter bottle of soda. You want to figure out how many gallons worth of soda you have. Suppose you have a bunch of 2-liter bottles. You want to figure out how many times you need to pour a 2-liter bottle into a gallon. Well, let's do some conversions here. Let's do some simple conversions. We're going to start with the no-brainers. 2,000 liters, or 2 liters. That's equal to 2,000 milliliters, because remember 1,000 milliliters in a liter. In other words, 2,000 centimeters squared, right? 2,000 centimeters squared. If you have, centimeters cubed. Centimeters cubed. If you have a centimeter by a centimeter by a centimeter cubed, about 2,000 of those are going to fit into a 2-liter bottle of soda. I need to convert that into gallons. Looking back at your conversion notes, go ahead and look at the first page of your conversion notes. Gallons only really factor into feet cubed readily. We need to somehow convert these centimeter cubes into feet cubes. We don't have any centimeter to cube or feet conversions. We do have centimeters into inches, so we're going to need to do a couple conversions at a time. First thing we're going to do, we're going to convert to inches cubed. Alright, I'm going to start that out in orange, converting to inches cubed. We're going to start out with 2,000 centimeters. And we're going to convert that, centimeter on the bottom, we're going to convert that into inches. You probably memorized this number by now. 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. That'll take care of just a single set of our centimeters. This would leave us with some number of centimeter inches, which is not what we're interested in. We're interested in inches, or inches cubed. So we need to do this twice more. We have inches on top. We have 2.54 centimeters on the bottom. And we'll do that once more. 1 inch on top, 2.54 centimeters on the bottom. That's going to cancel centimeters and centimeters, centimeters and centimeters, and we're left with inches, which is exactly what we want. This whole set of numbers, 2,000 divided by 2.54 times 2.54 times 2.54. If you go ahead and toss that all in your calculators, you're going to get about 122 inches cubed, about 122 inches cubed worth of soda. For our next step, I want to convert that into feet cubed. Alright? I want to convert that into feet cubed. And I'm going to go ahead and switch colors here. I'm going to go and switch that over to red. I'm going to start out with 122 inches cubed. I want you to notice something from the previous step that we took. If we needed to convert centimeters 3 times, we ended up having 3 2.54s in our denominator. Same thing goes on right here. If we want to convert to feet, there's 1 foot for every 12 inches. I'm going to save us a little bit of time rather than writing out 1 foot for 12 inches, 1 foot for 12 inches, 1 foot for 12 inches. I'm going to write 1 foot for 12 inches cubed. Alright, what that's going to do is cube's going to distribute to the feet, making it feet cubed, 1 cubed, 12 cubed, and inches cubed. Alright, feet cubed, 1 cubed, 12 cubed, and inches cubed. What essentially is going to happen there is the inches cubed are still going to cancel out. You're going to be left with just feet cubed, because the cubed distributed inside. And in our calculator, we can go ahead and type in 122 divided by 12 cubed. Alright, that's the same as saying 122 divided by 12 times 12 times 12, but it's 12 cubed. If you divide that out, that's going to give us 0.0706. What units do we have? We have feet cubed left. 0.0706 feet cubed. And now as a last step, I want to convert into gallons. I ran out of space on the bottom. Hopefully you didn't. So I'm going to go and type up top to gallons. I want to convert my 0.0706 feet cubed. Luckily, gallons converts pretty readily. Remember, that's the elite number. 1 gallon is 1 gallon per every 0.1337 feet cubed, not feet cubed, but feet cubed. So we're going to go and divide 0.0706 divided by 0.1337. You're going to end up getting about 0.528 gallons. 0.528 gallons is our final answer, which seems reasonable if you think about a 2-liter bottle of soda, pouring that into, let's say, a gallon jug, a gallon that you might use for milk. It would fill the gallon jug about halfway full. A gallon is probably more like 5 liters worth of liquid, or roughly 4 liters worth of liquid. As usual, if you have any questions, do let me know. Shoot me an email. Otherwise, we will go over some unit conversions next class in more detail. Your assignment for tonight is the Converting Units Practice Day 1. I did post a few answers to select problems. I believe every other problem I posted the answer. I am expecting to see work, though, on each problem. Have a delightful day. Take care.